Professor Spencer, in what state did you find the institution when you joined in September 2022?
When I joined the CMU in 2022, on day one I knew it was the right decision. Having gone there, what I saw would have been the remnant of some systems which needed to be refined. But what I saw were individuals who were filled with talent. I saw value in terms of the expertise and the technical competence in the maritime and nautical space. And even outside of that, in logistics and in many of the other areas that we engage, what I found was a lot of unearthed asset base that Jamaica had not recognized. So for example, talking about innovation. Having spent 15 years at another university, I understand that the innovative landscape here is much richer than anything that anyone could imagine. The kinds of technology we have available, the kinds of individuals operating that technology and trained in specialist areas out of Europe and the like did not exist elsewhere. So what I found was an opportunity for transformation. If we got the systems to align with the quality of the people, we would be on the right path to serving Jamaica.
You speak about particular systems that needed work.
Yes.
What were those particular systems and what were the issues with those systems?
Yes, so the Auditor General's report was very clear with what some of those were, and I will point to
which one?
what the key
2020?
ones. Yes, what the key ones were. So we went through our process of needing to strengthen our governance practices. There was a conversation about our procurement activities. We needed to refine that. And we pegged the two things. So for example, one of the things I found very early in September 2022 was that we had a division which had projects and procurement in the same location. And to my mind, having served in the government service before, there needed to be a clear separation. We quickly moved to have that rectified, and then we sought to bring in leadership for procurement that was solid, and to refine our procurement processes and ensure that a lot of those things would not repeat themselves. So procurement was one area. The other bit was related to some of the matters to do with our registry, and our registrar will join us shortly, in terms of the issuing of our certificates and ensuring that the process for that was foolproof. We also had matters to treat with the absence of, and this was not mentioned in the Auditor General's report, but of course you get a report that leads you to searching for these things. The absence of an HR manual, a discussion which would have been taking place for 20 years with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.
That is in place now?
We have brought that to conclusion now, and we've implemented our HR manual. The other things that I thought were needed urgent attention would be, for example, financial records and those systems. So we spent a lot of time, brought in new talent, brought in new systems. Now we're looking at how we synchronize all of the student registration systems with the financial systems. Again, that's connected to our digital transformation process. A new office has been established called the Office for Digital Transformation, which is looking at making sure that there is no room for the human error or human intention that may be outside of what the system should allow. So those were the things that we saw immediately, and we sought to move at them very quickly.
We noticed we foreground the discussion by looking at the issues, because we couldn't not ignore what happened between 2017 and 2022, because I mean that's what, 5 years. Well, the institution's brand and its public credibility.
Yes.
How was that impacted, you think, by what happened during that period and what has been happening?
Well,
so far?
you know, so I was asked this exact question in 2022. And my feeling on it then is still my feeling now. That the brand took a hit, naturally. But what we saw in the local space was not true of what we saw in the region and the rest of the world, which I found quite interesting. On my first trip, the feeling in the region was that the CMU was a gem that was serving an economic landscape that we could not afford to do without the CMU. And so that was what our partners were telling us at the Caribbean Shipping Association. How can we just get beyond this? We need to move forward. The CMU is bigger than any individual or set of individuals. It's about serving $1 trillion industry. It's about, one of the things I found interesting, just last night I looked at the news, and every time there's a conversation about surplus or deficit in trade, or a conversation about budget and economic activity and development, what you see in the backdrop is a picture of a ship. or containers. That struck me. And it tells you that shipping, the maritime space, the movement of goods by sea, which accounts for some close to 90% of all that we do. And I think people don't make that connection, and that's a part of my mandate, is to help people to understand how important shipping and all its attendant activities are to the transformation of a nation, in particular a developing countries such as ours. So the simple things like the things you love on the shelf, they don't get to the shelf simply because we manufacture all of them. Many of them come in. And so sitting at the center of that as the institution, the only one that's focused solely on how we equip the best kind of talent to be able to service the space, was front and center on the minds of our regional partners. In Jamaica, we've taken some time to start to rebuild that, and a lot of that has to do with the relationships and the partnerships. Yes. On day one, it was clear to us that your associations will mean a lot. And so we focused on connecting with very reputable organizations who can give that kind of credence. But we focused on fixing our internal systems, the things that would then allow us to be able to have the platform to be able to make a lot of noise about the exceptional graduates we have. One of the proudest things about us, and we had to make the messaging surround that, is that our graduates get rave reviews in the marketplace. So let me start at the point of having the highest absorption rate in the Caribbean. 80% of our graduates get jobs within 6 months of graduation. That's how open the industry is. That's the first thing. And the feedback we get from the industry on what our graduates do on the ground is not only related to what we do in the classroom and through the pedagogy of teaching. It is about an ethos of discipline. So it was about carrying that message of who our people are. You have less work to do. The learning curve is much less steep for our graduates who go into a space because they're well trained. So you would appreciate that an organization that has existed for 44 years, although only achieving university status since 2017, would have had its own culture and a particular way of doing things. So one of the things we had to fix immediately, told you about an HR manual that was in abeyance for 20 years. The other thing that was interesting was that since our university status, we had not been given an approved structure or org chart from the Ministry of Finance. So in essence, what was being utilized was a document created by the CMU for the CMU. And that's not how government entities operate. So we had to make that right, and that also meant it gave us an opportunity to identify what were the skills that we needed to move the university to the next frontier of what we wanted to achieve in terms of improving international student numbers and the like. And so those are the things that we've been deliberate about, but at the core of that was we never had a strat plan. We now have what's called the SGI strategy, which is our Stability, Growth and Innovation strategic plan for 5 years, which takes us to 2027. And we are almost a year and a half into that, a year and about 4 months into that. And we are starting to see some of the changes. For example, this year, we saw a 35% increase in our new student numbers. That is happening nowhere else in the tertiary landscape. And of course, you'd appreciate we didn't only have COVID working against us. You would have pointed to a particular report that would itself have been challenging. And you would have heard the president say earlier, as have many others, was that outside of what were the traditional opportunities being presented to them, they saw something at the Caribbean Maritime University that was going to enhance their lives greatly. So we have 3 faculties. I want to start there. So our core faculty, which is what you refer to, is our Faculty of Marine and Nautical Studies. That's how we were born, that's what we're known for. That's what separates us. There's an elite group of students in that faculty, about 200 of them. But outside of that, we're talking about close to 3,000 students. So we have 2 other faculties, and so those are the students who go to sea. So let me just put that frame there. So that's about a little more than 10% of your student population that actually goes to sea. The rest of our students are in the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Technology, where we have degrees that rival any engineering degrees around. We're talking about the government moving towards STEM. We have the only bachelor's degree in mechatronics, which is a combination of electrical and mechanical engineering. Where are our graduates in response to that? They're working in manufacturing. Many of them are at CEPRAD. Some of them are at CMEX. So those are the kinds of entities. Grace Kennedy. Power generation, yeah. New Fortress Energy, JPS. I'll give you an example. JPS takes 15 apprentices each year. the 3 public universities, and they take 5 from us and 5 from the other 2. And without question, the JPS continues to be impressed with our engineering graduates who have their degrees in mechatronics, in industrial systems, in industrial automation, and the like. So we consider that faculty to be our innovation hub. And then we have our largest faculty, which is the Faculty of Shipping and Logistics, which is where these 2 students are from, where we have the largest number of programs, but also the largest number of students, the largest number of faculty, because that's an area of massive growth. You're talking about degrees in shipping and logistics, in cruise shipping and marine tourism, well, we have a customs program now which we're renaming, which is customs processes, immigration and freight forwarding, which is now going to be bottled into a program known as border operations and management, because it is much broader than the expectation of being employed in customs and immigration. And so, where are they? They are everywhere that has to do with, so the logistician is needed in every business, in every space, to ensure the seamlessness of processes. And our graduates from the core faculty, though, which you asked about, are all around. We have partnerships with Carnival Corporation, which we see many of them working there. We have them working in tanker operations. We have them working, many of them have chosen to go into the yacht industry. So that pleasure craft industry has become attractive for many, because it's a little bit, it's easier work, it's glamour, and it pays very well. We have students who have graduated and in their first year earn more than our lecturers.
Can I add to that though?
Yes.
You asked Ms. Bertu, where are our graduates? And I want to add that they're in decision making across the region, outside of saying specifically where they work. They're at the spaces where they can take on other graduates. And the CMU advantage is that we get to supply the human element for the region. We are not the only maritime education and training institution, at least that's what it's called in shipping parlance. We are an METI for the International Maritime Organization, but we are the only one that exists in a country, in a whitelisted country that has a licensure body. So when people come to us for sea, they can get their license at the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. In fact, our colleagues in Trinidad and Guyana and Bahamas probably will come to us for those licenses, because only our country in the region can provide that license. If they want the seafarer's license, they have to go probably to England or somewhere in the United States to get it. So that's our advantage, because we have a licensure body within our training scope.
So I think we should probably explain the distinction between the degree programs, which is what Bob was explaining before, and the fact that after where seafarer is concerned, you still advance like you'd advance by getting additional courses on a course. So we have a center that does that. That's what Dr. Smith was referring to.
It's called a Maritime Training Center.
Yes.
So we do 2 levels of training. We do competency-based, because the shipping world, you can have your degree, but if you can't move that vessel, you see what happened in Baltimore. And I'm sure there was a competent captain at the helm, but with absence of visibility. But probably a person who knew the landscape better would judge that the bridge is so and steer so. So it is an endorsement space where you have to have a set of skills to be endorsed by the community to advance, but it begins at a license. So once you are, you can drive, once you can go on the road, no people can determine if you can become a circuit driver or you're a taxi driver, that kind of thing. So we have that world different from the academic world, and we bring good balance to who we send out, because we are sending out seafarers who can go get their license, and we are sending out the academic people. In the academic space, Ms. Bertu, and Prof, I have to do this. There are many bodies that support the welfare of people in the industry. One of those mandated by the International Maritime Organization for us in the Caribbean region is called the Women in Maritime Association of the Caribbean. I am the president. The presidency has come to Jamaica, and there are about 17 nation states that are involved in WEMAC, as we call it. It means that we have more than training. We have a voice that leads policy, position, and visibility. And we are not afraid of that. So one of the things that we push is for women to take a space in this industry. And those things we do from CMU, because I had full endorsement. If Prof didn't come onto the stage and say, you know, I am behind her 100%, they probably would think, oh, my boss is not behind me. But the other thing that we have, apart from an endorsement from the university, is the capacity to lead the conversation. So CMU is relevant because it's not just a trainer, it impacts maritime imperatives right up to the IMO. And it is because we are training people for the industry where we have that big voice. Trinidad is a money place with a port more, you know, sleeker and nicer than ours, but they do the entrepreneurship part. They watch the ships, we watch the people, and it is the people who make the decisions. So the IMO has some people who they approve for training. Why? Because when seafarers are trained in any space in the world, there is portability to their licensure. They don't have to retrain if they go into another territory. And so to manage that, the IMO creates a whitelist and says, okay, if you were trained in this space and licensed there, wherever you go, your license is active. And so a lot of training happens across the region. There are even some countries, like St. Kitts, for example, who does training through their yacht club. And that's in the region. However, we are the only one who, having a training institution, also have the capacity to give the license.
Yes,
And that's why, you know, they will go come to us anyway. So
I just want to make sure there is clarity completely on it. So after you get your degree from one of the 3 faculties, specifically in relation to the Faculty of Marine and Nautical Studies,
seafaring.
you don't join becoming a captain. So you then do continuing education courses, and the Maritime Training Center manages those IMO courses, and you can do them anywhere in the world. You can come from anywhere in the world and do them.
To do them here.
As well.
Right. And
So
to clarify
that's how you
that,
advance to becoming from like second officer to first officer to captain.
Our
But that's
chief
specifically-
engineer.
Or
if
chief
you're-
engineer, etc.
but to
That's
clarify
specifically-
that too,
Yes.
we have a process of an academic program which then transitions people to that.
To that.
They don't necessarily do it that way in the rest of the world. So many of them who come to us don't necessarily come to us with degrees, but they're able to go through the certification process as well because we have licensure.
Yes.